Hello friends, and welcome back to What Lies in the Sunday Telegraph. For new players, we are going to read the Sunday Telegraph and apply the powers of critical thinking to Australia's #1 selling newspaper. There will be some jokes. I can't promise how good they'll be. Let's crack on, shall we? Now, it being grand final day, why not start with the sports page? Greyhound racing. Yay, $1 million chase. It's a chase, not torture and death. It could be possible to do greyhound racing in a humane and ethical way, just not in Australia with the inability to regulate industries. I'm sure there's some greyhound owners who love their dogs and take them walks and dog parks and whatever, happy dogs, but mostly they're just commodities being burned up and disposed of, which is, I think dogs deserve better. So front page is actually where you find the rugby league news. So front page for sport, back page for gambling. That's the new paradigm, isn't it? Right, Raiders reboot, how Captain Reliable helped to rebuild the mighty green machine. This is Jared Croker. It's interesting. This could be a Canberra edition, to be honest. Isn't that terrible? You can't even rely on the newspaper, just be the newspaper. Well, I am a notional Raiders fan and making myself a hostage to fortune here. I'll be surprised if they perform in their first grand final after 24 years out of the limelight. Normally takes a couple of goes, but that would be great. We have a headline here, Inside Canberra's Torture Camp, but I assume it's not talking about immigration detention. Let's crack on and find out, shall we? Right, we've got some more Roosters news now, still on the grand final. They're going with a blue and green motif, which sort of blends into teal in the middle, and I would have gone with red for the Roosters, and you'd have got more contrast at least. Would have looked like the Bunnies, I suppose. It is grand final day, my word. It's a testament to determination to be able to write this many words after a week of writing the same words. Oh, we've got some insight into the Joey and Aaron feud. Apparently Ray Warren feels torn by the feud. Okay, so it turns out it was a wraparound with dog racing on the back. And we get a new newspaper. What have we got here? Has it still got... No, it's got Insider on the back. That's Insider. There you go. Draw your own conclusions from there. I'm not going to go there. Andrew O'Keefe, on why he checked himself into rehab. I think we all know why TV celebrities go into rehab, don't we? We promised Jess, I think they mean Jess Mauboy is all grown up. She's been photographed in front of Uluru, so nice to commodify her culture there. And Bill Shorten says, I'm to blame. We've got an exclusive, page 6 and 7, the former alternative Prime Minister explaining his failure and how it led to our current system of government. You wouldn't want to put it too far at the front of the paper. I mean, Andrew O'Keefe in rehab gets that much space, and it's not as if he's a particularly attractive dude. I mean, he's not ugly, but... And then that's Bill Shorten. Exactly as much space, although slightly less prominence on the page, than Jess Mauboy noting the effluxion of time. Apparently a toddler is suing New South Wales police after he was strip-searched. A 16-month-old boy. Strip searching in prisons is going to become... Strip searching in general is going to become a increasingly vexed issue, I suspect. So mixed picks, this is the best the paper has to offer according to its editor. Sam Frost beat the Blues. Family holidays for people who hate family holidays. Sounds like an exercise in masochism, doesn't it? A bit like reading this newspaper. Ways to slash your household bills. 5 best places to eat out you didn't know about, but now in a newspaper. More on Jess Mauboy's growing upness. And let's see, a nursing home is using Clydesdales to revive the memories of their residents. I don't know how many people even alive in nursing homes would remember a time when horse drays were part of everyday Australian life, but if the horse owner's enjoying it and the horse is getting some carrots, then I guess it's all good, isn't it? Dairy farmers complaining. And our ultimate guide to the Melbourne Cup, moving seamlessly from grand final to horse racing. Got to keep that gambling thread running through the middle there, don't you? So Jessica Mauboy, who's also in the Stella magazine, or as I like to call it, Vogue for Poor People. Good for her. Time has affluxed. She has gone with it. I'm not quite sure why that occupies half of page 3. Along with the Bub strip search by police. Unusual for the Telegraph to be running a story that's critical of police, but take it when you can get it. Andrew O'Keefe's rehab. 2 pages. Exclusive by Annette Sharp, who normally does the gossip on the back pages, but he's blaming the death of his father in 2014. And the breakdown of his marriage. Right, so he doesn't want to talk about rumours of drugs or alcohol, but why else does one go into rehab? Nice holiday with interesting people, I gather. Peter Dutton's over in the US talking about how we shouldn't be allowed to send encrypted messages because it makes his life slightly harder. Doing whatever the hell he wants to do, which is almost certainly horrible. Slightly strange positioning. Page 6 at the bottom, we do mention that the Australian bloggers who are alleged to have flown a drone where they shouldn't in Iran have actually been released, which is a good result, I suspect. Olivia Newton-John is claiming success in her push to get medicinal cannabis legalised. Greg Hunt is going to spend $3 million for research into its use. Apparently, New South Wales universities are more likely to lead to a full-time job than anywhere else in Australia. I think there's some other factors that might be affecting that. Daylight savings has occurred. So you're either an hour late or an hour. Something's happened to the clocks. Just check that your clocks have done it. Good luck. Right, so Bill Shorten's got a whole lot of humility. It's me. There doesn't appear to be any deep analysis of why he lost, which is a shame because that's a question a lot of people want to know. I suspect if Labor does know, they're planning to do the same thing to the Liberals in the future, so they probably want to keep pretty mum about it. Takeaways. Bill rules out return to leadership, backs Albanese, wants to remain in public life for the next 20 years, and notes that we had too many messages in hindsight. Tricky one. If he's advocating a small target strategy, that's yet to be consistently proven. But when you're running against a government of scumbags who everyone hates, then... Well, obviously not everyone hates, that's too far, but extremely unlikable people, then it probably helps to keep the policy messaging moderate. So some police have been shot at in Penrith. So this is Daniel King, who was shot dead by police. So I think the police are, with good reason, trying to show just how terrifying Mr. King's rampage was. So Kelly Rowland has been booked to entertain at the Everest, which is Sydney's attempt to be the Melbourne Cup or something makes sense to racing people. Harry's War. This is Prince Harry suing the media. It's not a great look for princes of the realm to be using the courts to silence voices they dislike. On the other hand, big UK newspapers do seem to be scumbags doing horrible things, and it's good someone's stepping up on behalf of everyone who's being tormented by them. What does it used to call fox hunting, the unspeakable in pursuit of the inedible? I reckon Harry knows his way around a fox hunt. Well, this is a real 2019 story. So we have Travers Banyan, who's that gentleman there, looking very sharp with his... I mean, I'm not going to criticise the man for having a beard, obviously, but does he have it for the right reasons? So the headline is Candyman Sues Neighbours Over Parties. This is by Greg Stoltz. Gold Coast tobacco tycoon Travers the Candyman Bainan is suing his neighbours, claiming they're trying to stop him throwing infamous parties at his candy shop mansion. The Playboy glitter strip businessman, I don't even know what the glitter strip is or why. Okay, he's a Playboy apparently. Has launched a district court lawsuit against 4 members of the body corporate committee at the luxury riverfront estate where he lives with his wife and girlfriends. Not that I have anything against polyamory, but again, I'm not sure he's doing it for the right reasons. He alleges the committee members had moved to enact discriminatory bylaws to restrict events and noise at the River Cove estate at Helensvale and is seeking almost $50,000 in damages from each of them. The claim filed last month alleges the members deliberately targeted Mr. Bainan so as to impact upon the plaintiff's use and enjoyment of his property, including the holding of its annual pre-Christmas party. The county demands decadent Christmas parties where hundreds of scantily clad guests cavort throughout the lavish mansion have attracted police attention. Last year he was hit with a $13,000 fine from the Gold Coast City Council after complaints about a statue of a topless Virgin Mary. I guess the nice thing about the Gold Coast is that it keeps all these people out of the rest of the community. I just want to note I'm pro-awesome parties, less pro-awesome parties in mansions. I mean, they can take care of their own entertainment really, can't they? Right, so we have two pages on dating app danger. There's a little piece on Ask for Angela, which is if you're at a bar and want to get away from someone, then ask for Angela at the bar, and the bar staff, if they've heard of it, will help you, I don't know, disappear out the back door. So we have, with a big yellow case study stamped across it, My Tinder Date Rape, when a Sydney woman went to police to report a sexual assault by a man she met through the dating app Tinder. She discovered her alleged attacker was using a fake name and had a deceitful and dark past. Things can get pretty rough and wild. Hidden toll of hooking up online. Swiping right is not giving consent, police have warned. Well, you can withdraw consent at any time. In any event, new wave of criminal behaviour. I mean, this is basically just trying to scare the oldies about what the kids are doing. Another page of dating app danger. Between the grand final and the dating app danger, it's a lot of newsprint. How I got catfished. Bianca Bulden had to leave a date in a hurry after he wasn't all that he claimed to be in his online profile. That sounds like a pretty low-level catfishing. Okay, so they're now recommending the correct apps to use. Flicking through dozens of profiles in search of love or at least good company is now a dating norm, from a private school-only hub to a platform that puts women in charge. Here's an insight into the ever-changing dating app world. They lead with Tinder, then Bumble. If you haven't heard of it, they describe as Bumble was the brainchild of one of Tinder's co-founders, Whitney Wolfe Herd. In 2014, the platform set itself apart by giving women the power to initiate conversation with a man after a match. Which actually just takes the pressure off the dudes if the women have to do more of the work. But hey, if it works as a hook and people are happy with it, then that's fine. Grindr, popular in gay, bisexual, transsexual and queer community and amassing 27 million downloads worldwide. Grindr markets itself as a social networking app, but unofficially is viewed as an easy go-to for a casual hookup. I do know hetero women who've been on Grindr for a while, but they also do cop quite a lot of abuse in the gay community for doing it, so, whatever floats your boat. Then Toffee, launched with just the right amount of outrage in Australia in June. Toffee has a non-negotiable condition for users, a private school education. It's not a ghetto I'd want to... I mean... I'm not averse to meeting people who also went to a private school. Yes, I went to a private school. I can't imagine being the sort of person who would only want to meet people from exactly the same background. But I have no doubt it's popular and it works because there's a lot of really shit people out there. Hinge sells itself as a marketplace for relationships, not casual sex. Launched after a revamp. You can revamp or you can launch. I'm not sure you can launch after a revamp. In 2016, the Hinge selling point is that it's designed to be deleted. The focus is on forging meaningful relationships rather than meaningless swiping. It's been a few years since I was on dating apps, but one thing I do find is no matter what the vibe of the app is, different people have different expectations of how things are going to work and what they're going to do, and you just need to negotiate that. Still continuing on page 15, this is like 4 pages so far. Make the creeps own up. People using dating apps should be made to declare any violent history. It's one of those things that I don't oppose the principle, I just would really like to see how you're going to achieve it. But you're not meant, normally, like I said, everyone approaches things differently and things work differently, but in most cases, a first date isn't supposed to be really an intimate affair. It's just a checking out, and then you have a couple of other dates and you make sure you change the context and the setting so you get to see some of the person and decide if that's what you like before you move things forward into a situation where you're actually dangerous or exposed. Certainly the first date, definitely do it in a reasonably busy bar where you are surrounded by potential witnesses, security guards, and people who can call police. Unless you're looking to just have sex with the person you see in the picture, and then, if that's what you want, go for it. But don't complain later, I guess. I mean, obviously you can complain if things go horribly wrong. I'm not going to stop you. I don't know if the Telegraph needs to get involved in this. I think people are figuring it out for themselves. ScoMo still likes it quiet. Scott Morrison has again hailed his ability to stand up for quiet Australians while taking a veiled swipe at globalist protesters. Oh God, we're fighting the culture wars now, aren't we? Got a little straw man of someone he saw shouting in Martin Place about an unspecified issue. Might have been really important, who can say? ScoMo's not going to tell us, just going to say they were shouting, we shouldn't listen to them. So apparently they're cleaning out the highest ranks of the Australian Federal Police. Say new Commissioner Rhys Kershaw. Only time will tell if this is a good or a bad thing. More Annette Sharp telling us hit TV shows bring families back together on the couch. How kids now rule ratings. Only when it's shows that really old people want to watch. Apparently The Masked Singer, Lego Masters, Gogglebox and Australian Ninja Warrior are the shows to emulate. Record crowds for the Deniliquin Ute Muster. It's, not my thing, but I'm glad people are off having good, clean, consensual fun. So Sydney's beaches have got a clean bill of health for the water quality. Spring racing fashion, for those of you with an interest in such things, are risk-taking, 80s styling and bold colours. 2 pages of Nick Scarley trying to flog us hideous couches. Okay, so Telegraph's running some sort of promo where they're scalping money out of restaurants. They got some chef to say that Sydney's Italian is now the world's best. Includes his restaurant. I'd be surprised if it's seriously ahead of Melbourne. But given that my experience of the Italian eateries of both Sydney and Melbourne is relatively limited, I just think it's garbage because of the way it's written here. Not because it's written here. Some true things are written here. The way it's written here suggests it's garbage. One dairy farm a week is going bust as drought crushes families just as milk prices begin to rise. I mean, with dairy farmers, I get complaining has done them very well and saved them having to invest and take on staff and things like that. But fundamentally, Australian milk is a product in huge global demand and also has some very simple value add steps like making cheese. And you've got to wonder about the lack of entrepreneurial spirit in these groups and places that are just used to getting really good money for just leaving the milk crates out on the to be picked up every day. So, come on guys, we're all having to hustle and make it in the digital salt mines. I don't see why you dairy farmers should be exempt. Get with it. Double demerits are failing to deter reckless drivers. They're saying long weekend of road carnage. I guarantee the bones of these stories were all written last week. Right. Martin Scorsese has given Marvel's cinematic universe the cold shoulder comparing the billion-dollar franchise to theme parks. He says, I don't see them. I tried, so I doff my lid to Martin Scorsese. He doesn't need my acclamation, but I'm just saying I'm coming from a place of deep respect, but fundamentally, he's a very old dude, and old man says new movies aren't to his taste. Almost hardly seems newsworthy. He says they're closer to theme parks. Yeah, people like riding roller coasters, Martin. He says, it isn't the cinema of human beings trying to convey emotional, psychological experiences to another human being. Yeah, I'm not sure that's what we really want, particularly in big screen cinema. You know, you got to leave the house, you got to park, you got to buy your ticket, you know, deal with a lot of spotty teenagers. Get into that, but you want some spectacle. You don't want just 2 hours of psychodrama. I can sit at home and get that on the telly. Last drinks for historic hotel names. Okay, so the 10 most popular pub names in New South Wales are the Royal Hotel, the Commercial Hotel, the Railway Hotel, the Imperial Hotel, Tattersalls Hotel, sounds more like a franchise, but sure, Grand Hotel, Courthouse Hotel, Australian Hotel, Central Hotel, and Star Hotel. There are 9-star hotels, so the sample's getting a little low. 88 Royal Hotels in New South Wales, which frankly surprises me because I can think of 3 within just stone's throw here. They're kind of bemoaning that instead of just calling themselves generic names, they're now going for quirky and distinctive names for pubs. Because, I mean, that hasn't been a trend for 400 years, but just we're finally catching up. E-cigarettes do more harm than tobacco, says Rebecca Di Girolamo. The Pride of Australia Awards noting that Thomas Shannon saved his mum from a car crash with a broken back, which does sound very brave. Towns turn pink for cancer nurses. Drought-stricken country towns put their own troubles on the back burner to raise money for more cancer nurses. Good work, McGrath Foundation. Of course, it's part of the trouble when we make public services competitive through charity processes. I mean, it buys a lot of Mercedes for CEOs, but I'm not sure it's any way to run a society. The Cell. We've page 37, and we're talking real estate. This is a tough one. Student who can't move eyes, writes Kay Dibben. A young woman with a genetic eye disability is considering filing a discrimination claim in a desperate bid to be allowed to graduate from university and become a teacher. Jessie Wilson, who has never been able to move her eyes, says she twice failed a 2-hour computer-based literacy test, which she must pass to become a primary school teacher. She says reading the online text, even after being allowed to zoom in and given her 20 minutes extra time, still put her at a disadvantage to others because it put too much strain on her eyes. I want to become a primary school teacher and work in special education. I don't feel that disability should be a barrier. Now, this is a troublesome sentence. I'm happy to sit the exam again as long as I'm given special consideration to even it up with everyone else. I guess the real question, which isn't addressed in this article, is whether this test is actually testing anything that's essential to being qualified as a teacher, noting that different teachers work in very different environments. Do they all require this? I wish they'd tackled that question. The Source, political gossip with Annika Smethurst, Linda Silmalis and Miranda Wood. A Tale of Two Tributes. Now, this is a terribly laid out page. Let me try and explain what's going on here. So, headline, image. You'd normally expect the article to start there, wouldn't you? But instead, the article starts below the image and then wraps back up the top. And yes, I know that in English we tend to read left to right, but we do also tend to read top to bottom. 2 glossy lift outs. After recycling with you. Jesus, imagine. Not that long ago, every household in the land had one of these pieces of crap on their lawn every single day going into the bin. People complain about the modern world, but... And I do want to note, I only get the paper delivered so I can do these videos. I'm literally a hipster doing it ironically. Fat, old, ugly hipster, but, you know, got the beard. Haircut's pretty sharp. Glasses are cool. It's a shame about me, isn't it? So Tony Abbott's had a tribute dinner, hosting 700 people at the Miramere Gardens. Oh, it's to be held. $170 a head, so you could go. I don't know, it'd be quite tempting for $170 to document that thing. You know, I mean, it sounds a bit weird. That, I mean, if tickets are for sale, including $170 for non-party members, you'd think anyone could buy a ticket, but maybe the guests with invites don't have to pay. Apparently Liberals are hoping Mike Baird will go so they can woo him back into politics. Imagine being wooed by the Liberal Party. Sounds awful. So the source is having a go at a Melbourne communications firm has been enlisted to promote the Sydney Festival. That does sound a bit dumb, but I'm sure someone's friends with someone. Anthony Albanese is supporting the Raiders. There's your kiss of death. Right, the snitch. Crime news. Arrest all in the family. New South Wales has its own father and daughter dream team. This is detectives, or at least police officers, Jessica Oxford and her father, Chief Inspector Russell Oxford. Good to say we're going full tribal in policing. Former Magistrate Graham Curran, who is imprisoned for indecently assaulting an underage boy, is sharing a cell with Eddie Abid. Good to see we're pushing our old grand conspiracy of powerful people forwards. Rooftop bars apparently are hot. The best rooftops are the Glenmore and the Rocks, East Village in Darlinghurst, it's East Village Hotel in Darlinghurst, the Ivy Pool Club, I'm not sure I put that in the best of anything, Bar Ombre at Circular Quay, and Nick and Nora's in Parramatta, which is a high-end cocktail and champagne bar, opened in November last year, and is a part of a migration of classy venues to Western Sydney, possibly because of the lockout laws. That might be about to reverse. Okay, and then we're giving 2 pages to taking Clydesdales to old people. I gotta say, these are very small Clydesdales as well. I'll try and show you. I don't know if you can. I mean, that woman doesn't look abnormally tall, and that horse is not much bigger than her. I get this is the job for your miniature Clydesdales, but look, if people like having a fluffy hoofed horse in their old person's home, and if I was in an old person's home, I'd love someone bringing a horse in to visit me. But it's a bit like this thing that a lot of people in nursing homes grew up, at least in the 50s these days, and their taste in music is not roll out the barrel and knees up Mother Brown, and yet we still say that this is stuff for old people. And I guess after 20 years of being played that stuff, it becomes your stuff, even if it wasn't your natural cultural place. But if you've got good pictures, you can get in the paper. We keep saying that. Sport. The Wallabies struggled to beat Uruguay. I mean, 45-10 is not a bad scoreline, but it was not pretty. Uruguay, it was not all one-way traffic. Yes, we've established I went to a private school and I like rugby. The puzzle page survives. The Watch Guide notes that Gwyneth Paltrow has made a stunning return to the small screen, The Politician, which is on Netflix. It's funny how Netflix has managed to buy the love of the Murdoch press. Tanning toolkits. It's weird. I can't have one word about climate emergency, global warming. Apparently there's a bit of a nasty drought going on, but nothing to see here, I guess. So asparagus is where we're at. Asparagus and zucchini fritters. I mean, you can put asparagus in things and it'll be good. So there's a green asparagus shakshuka that looks kind of nice. Baking eggs into things is kind of cool. I'm into that. But you just got this basic problem that asparagus is so great steamed with some garlic butter poured over it that everything else you do with it's kind of just wrecking it. So here in Body and Soul Sex Advice, we're asking, my wife heard somewhere that imposing a sex ban can increase sexual desire between a couple. We're in a bit of a rut at the moment, and I'm worried that this could mean for the future of our relationship and continues. While I'm keen to try something new, this seems odd and a little extreme. Is it a feasible strategy? The advice is overexposure to anything dulls your appetite for it, so cutting out sex may indeed make you hunger for each other. Your wife is alluding to a well-known technique that was devised by legendary sex researchers Masters and Johnsons as a way of decreasing sexual anxiety. Sensate focus, she's calling it. Look, if your relationship's in a bad place and your wife is asking for a sex ban, it's probably not so she can make for greater sex later. It's probably because she's getting ready to leave you. Don't help her move into state. She can move herself. I mean, look, if you want to help her move into state, sure, but just saying, recognise the signs, you know? And I guess it'd be nice if you could end a relationship so amicably that you could help each other move. I get that, but Just don't kid yourself as to what's happening. So apparently Ford's going to go slow ahead of Bathurst for some tactical reason that makes sense to them. Wow, Jessica Halloran is devoting a whole page to 9-turn blind eye to drama. Network fails to support Molan over feud with Johns. And we have a picture of a sad-looking Erin Molan. She looks sad. It's a very well-lit photograph, and she's definitely got her full war paint on. So some effort has been gone to create this photograph of the sad yet steely-eyed Erin Molan. Let's dig into this, figure out what the hell's going on with this feud. This is not a column about trolls, stuff them, sure. This is a column about how a woman has copped it for a week because a man allegedly doesn't want to work with her and how Channel 9 let this happen. It is about the predictable disrespect shown by Nine, who have this week failed to strongly publicly support Erin Molan, one of the faces on their rugby league coverage, as she endured relentless stream of vitriol. That should be a relentless stream of vitriol. So, number of editors this must have been 3 to let that through. On social media, days of backlash that included death threats and potshots at her professionalism. Nine's public silence this week is telling, and the epic fallout between Andrew Johns and Molan has been handled appallingly by the network. On the other hand, we're all talking about them, I guess. It is alleged that the rugby league immortal won't work with and won't even talk to Molan. It's understood they've barely had a lengthy conversation in recent seasons. Johns is reluctant to explain in full to Molan why he can't work with her, so that would be her, she said that, and has done little publicly to say the feud is grossly untrue, instead remarking that good old rugby league just thrive on rumours and innuendo. Johns started the season on Friday Night Footy alongside Molan before disappearing midway through the year because it is alleged he couldn't stand working with her. He was subsequently replaced by Billy Slater. As a source told the Daily Mail this week, Joey is a stubborn bastard. If somewhere on the line she's pissed him off, he'll probably carry it around for the rest of his life. It's not really being stubborn as much as grudge-bearing and vindictive. Johns has also reportedly told the network he would not pretend he had no problem with her after Phil Rothfield exclusively broke the falling out between the Nine Stars last Sunday. The firestorm that followed, one of the messiest fallouts in rugby league, all could have been avoided if Channel 9 had managed the situation better. When you're dealing with some of the most prolific people on TV in Australia, you are only one leak away from scandal. Don't you think management should have got a handle on it? Well, we're not talking about what the hell actually happened, because two people who don't want to stand next to each other, probably there's some causes going on. I can't be bothered trying to go any further with that. How to Save $1,000 in an Afternoon. Buy this new book. Looks a lot like an ad, but I suppose if it's information that the paper feels will sell. Protesters vow to fight mask ban in Hong Kong. I feel the protesters may be starting to overreach. I think around the point petrol bombs started getting thrown was there, we wouldn't have tolerated that in this country. Very few countries would have tolerated it. Donald Trump says they'll pay at the polls. This is for daring to impeach him for his gangster-like behaviour. Still in world news, Iranian hackers targeted election. Tech giant Microsoft says hackers linked to the Iranian government targeted a US presidential campaign as well as government officials. You know, the Iranians are very good at influence operations, so unless they wanted Trump to win, which there'd have to be some counterintuitive reason for that, I'd be surprised if Microsoft would detect it. I think it's more likely that they're setting that story up. And so we come to Miss Peter Credlin. Now, I talk about Peter Credlin as if everyone knows who she is, but she is married to Brian Loughnane, who certainly was the president of the Liberal Party, might still be, for all I'd know about Brian's comings and goings, and chief of staff to Tony Abbott. Quite a flamboyant, tall figure, prone to leopard skin pantsuits. So she's cheering on Australia's journey to international pariahdom. Headline, Morrison fights for our sovereignty at UN. Terribly set out page, look at the way they've got his head stuck through there. It was a bold speech that many of us have wanted to hear from an Australian Prime Minister for some time. Here was an elected political leader pushing back against the unelected bureaucrats of the UN whose long-term aim is to diminish the sovereignty of nations and create a world of open borders where they set the agenda. World of open borders, wouldn't that be terrible? Oh God, spare me. Here was our PM rebuking the globalists on behalf of the Australian voters, who should be supreme in our democracy, as if they're supreme in our democracy. Peter Credlin's supreme in our democracy. Average voters aren't. This is actually scary stuff because we are looking and sounding the way white South Africa did before the world really started to slap sanctions on them for their disgusting behaviour in the 70s and 80s. And this is the path we're on if we don't actually, if we continue to let the fossil fuel industry drive the bus. The world's going to get really sick of us. I mean, the world's not as in love with us as the Daily Telegraph would have you believe, but I fear for our future. Right, Peter's thumbs down is to the Melbourne police station that flew the red Chinese flag this week to commemorate 70 years of communist rule. This is a country that killed more of its citizens than any other in the years of Mao Zedong and beyond. I'm all for cultural ties, but Australian flagpoles are for the Australian flag. Many an Australian flagpole does fly other countries' flags. I'm not entirely convinced of the appropriateness of... I mean, do they? If this flagpole is used for other countries' flags on their national days, then sure. A thumbs up to new grants to help farmers with water infrastructure on their properties. Now let's build some bloody dams. Would this be because the climate's changing, Peter? I mean, I love it. Let's dig up all the coal, superheat the climate, and then do some gigantic infrastructure programs which are going to flood valleys to try and mitigate the damage we've done. It's quite the cycle of destruction that Peter and her people want us to be on. Peter Dutton talking point. Time we stopped giving handouts to these climate layabouts. Why do we need new dams, Peter? Is it something that the climate layabouts are talking about? Something you don't want to listen to? Good on Morrison government ministers Peter Dutton and Michaelia Cash, say two of the most revolting human beings who've ever existed, for threatening climate protesters with losing the dole. After all, it's pretty hard to be looking for work while you're supergluing yourself to a street or chaining yourself to a fence. I don't know, you can have fired off 3 or 4 applications in the morning, gone to an interview, and then go do some protest. That doesn't sound like an overly arduous day. One thing about being unemployed is you tend to be a little time rich. It's the only thing you're rich in. The new start's hardly going to fund much. Most people, that's an interesting assertion off the top of the bat, are sick of paying for these pests 3 times. First, when their journeys are made longer and their days harder thanks to traffic disruptions. Second, through their taxes funding these layabouts. And third, through the cost of policing these now routine Extinction Rebellion protests. We're basically talking about criminalising protest. That's what we're really talking about. But let's frame it as going after dole bludgers, because going after dole bludgers is easy and cheap, and even though they make up... Welfare is a very large part of the budget. I'm not going to pretend it's not, but when you actually break it down to people on New Start, less so, and a lot of other money goes to people who've already got heaps. And, there's people sleeping on the damn street, and we're still handing out billion-dollar rebates to mining companies, and you've got to... At some point, someone has to think, what does this say about our priorities? Peter Gleeson has either been bumped off the Peter Credlin page or given his own space, because at the top of this page, he says, Dinky die, it's time to waltz. After 42 years, it's time for another referendum on the national anthem, and this time Aussies will get fair dinkum and overwhelmingly opt for Waltzing Matilda. In 1977, Australians were asked to vote on a national anthem. The contenders were God Save the Queen, Advance Australia Fair, Waltzing Matilda, and Song of Australia. Advance Australia Fair polled 43% of the vote. Waltzing Matilda was second with 28%. God Save the Queen, 18% got bronze. And Song of Australia was Stone Motherless. 7 million ballots were issued. 750,000 of those were informal. Only the folk of the ACT, which last week made cannabis legal, gave the nod to Waltzing Matilda over Advance Australia Fair. The rest of the country, except South Australia, which went overwhelmingly for Song of Australia, voted for Advance Australia Fair. But things have changed. While I have nothing against Advance Australia Fair, it should be disqualified straight up for using the word girt in its lyrics. Girt by C, please. You know, that's literally the least offensive thing about the anthem. So what if it's got a word most people can deduce from context very easily, even if they don't know it? I just think it sounds terrible. That's why I hate it. Jesus, this is some rank propaganda. How many Aussies know the entire song off by heart? Well, that's that's their business. You do realise the bloke who penned Advance Australia Fair, Peter Dodds McCormick, was a Scotsman. I mean, on the other hand, the Star Spangled Banner, you'd be hard-pressed to find an American who could sing all the words, and it is a painfully hard song to sing with the range in it. So Peter's just super keen for Waltzing Matilda. There is a school of thought that Waltzing Matilda is actually about the murder of a union leader by rural landowners, which, and then hedged as being about, he just jumped in the billabong. Anyway. Lucy Kahn says she's had enough of, okay, Harry, it's time to stop playing the Diana card. Well, the media did kill his mum. That's you, Lucy. Unless it was the Secret Service. But, for the media to try and defend themselves saying they're sick of him talking about his dead mum is a little problematic to me, at least. David Pemberthy says parents' high anxiety is absorbed by their kids. And then he's talking about movies he found scary when he was a kid. Piers Ackerman says Morrison is right to reject the global agenda that would destroy Australian values. Which sounds a lot like the time we traded Australia's war debt at the Paris Peace Conference for the right to remain racist. All keeps revolving around to the same things, doesn't it? The Sunday editorial is let's enjoy the final 80 minutes of season 2019. Do you believe in fairy tales? Good way of describing our fixation with sport, isn't it? Sometimes feel with rugby league, because the ticket sales are never a patch on the passion you see down in Victoria for AFL. If it's just something everyone feels we need to do. So, I mean, I'm not saying there aren't die-hard rugby league fans. There definitely are. I'm not questioning that, but when everyone else tries to get involved, it sometimes feels a little strained, like we're doing it because we have to, not because we actually want to. I will watch the game, though. YouTube idiots need a dose of Greg Chappell, says Kerry Parnell. Thanks to YouTube pranksters, now every game is fair game for some muppet looking to get free publicity and grow their brand, says the woman with a face in the newspaper and her own column. Not worried about your own brand, Kerry? Got enough help, do you? So Westeros correspondent Duncan Lay is trying to wage war on cultural Marxists through the form of Marvel comic reboots of old properties, and it's all a little pointless and exhausting, isn't it? Hollywood will do what they think will make the most money, and to that extent, if it shows that the public is actually progressive and their tastes are dragging it towards more progressive things, and I guess this is really good. Alan Jones in shorts in Japan. I'm going to share that with everyone, my word. And it's Sharp's devoting a page to... Oh no, maybe this is James Weir. Sorry, this is James Weir is devoting a page to how Harry shouldn't be suing the Murdoch press. Funny how many pages to defending themselves they're putting in. And then, I don't know, the back page, we got... I don't know who these women are. It doesn't tell us. They look good in frocks. It's literally just gone past somewhere on page 116, apparently. That's sinking 116 plus the inserts. Right, so Danny Minogue and Lindsay Lohan have bonded over wigs and shared experiences on the set of The Masked Singer. So another week of lies and misdirection, and it's pretty bad. What do we got? We got every now and then McAuliffe will maybe do a bit. I mean, I'm doing this, but much as I appreciate surprisingly large numbers of people who do watch the whole of this, it's pretty small beans, the biggest selling newspaper. I made a throwaway reference earlier to the Paris Peace Conference of 1919, and just for a reference there, if you want to Google the Racial Equality Clause, just Racial Equality Clause will get you what you want, to the Treaty of Versailles that was proposed by the Japanese at the end of the First World War. I'm going to just let you go do that as your own research project and see where you go to, because it's certainly were the top of my head when I connected those dots. Okay, thank you so much everyone who's made it through to the end here. I really do appreciate your efforts and your time, and we'll be back next Sunday, so do tell your friends who might like it. Okay, cheers, bye folks.